A newly released report by the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services is raising new questions about that agency's conduct after it failed to prevent the starvation death of an 8-year-old boy in Lake County. Calling it a slow-motion murder, Lake County prosecutors charged 33-year-old Dominique Servant and her boyfriend, 38-year-old Joey Ruffin, with the murder of Servant's 8-year-old son, Markel Pierce. Prosecutors say the Round Lake Beach couple essentially starved and abused the boy for years before he died in early February. Now the Department of Children and Family Services has released a timeline of its contacts and interventions with that child, which began 4 years ago. According to that timeline, DCFS caseworkers first contacted the family in September of 2022 after the agency received a report that Servant had used a belt to discipline another child in the home. Servant admitted she'd whipped the child, but the investigation was closed a month later. There were 4 more investigations launched by DCFS over the next 3 years, following tips from mandated reporters. The most recent investigation, in January of 2025, stemmed from allegations that Servant was withholding food from the child as punishment, forcing him to hold weights as punishment, and that he had a patch of missing hair. In an interview with the child, Markel told investigators that he often looked for food in the garbage, the trash can, and was getting food from friends. Mandated reporters told an investigator that Markel was visibly smaller in weight and hungry, and had frequently missed school. That investigation was closed, though, in March of last year, with the allegations of food insecurity determined to be unfounded. A statement from DCFS is saying its investigation into the circumstances around the boy's death is still ongoing, but would not say whether any employees were being disciplined. Both Servant and Ruffin have pleaded not guilty to the murder and child endangerment charges.